It might have been better if he'd been a little bit more diplomatic and sort of says, hey guys, I'd love her to be, I really love her and I just want to be near her.
Her smile was everywhere. Her name echoed through magazines, television screens, and bedroom walls across the world. Farrah Fawcett became a symbol almost overnight, a face so recognizable that it seemed timeless. Yet the image the public embraced was only a fragment of the woman she truly was. Even Farrah herself often expressed surprise when people described her as an icon, a legend, or a fantasy. Those titles never felt like they belonged to the full human being behind them. Decades later, her name surged back into public conversation. By 2025, Farrah Fawcett was no longer being discussed only as a television star or a pop culture pinup. Her artwork began commanding serious attention. Sculptures created by her own hands sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars at major auctions. Young celebrities resurrected her signature hairstyle, flooding salons with requests for the famous Farrah flip. Hair professionals reported dramatic spikes in demand, proving her influence had never truly faded. But nostalgia was not the real reason people were talking. New stories emerged, peeling back layers that Hollywood had long kept hidden. Revelations about Farrah's final years and her treatment behind studio doors painted a far more complex picture. What she endured privately stood in stark contrast to the glowing image sold to the world. She was not simply a beautiful woman blessed with fame. She was a fighter, struggling through battles that few ever noticed. Farrah Fawcett entered the world as Mary Farrah Lenny Fawcett on February 2, 1947, in Corpus Christi, Texas. She grew up in a modest, conservative household, the younger of two daughters. Her upbringing was rooted in discipline, faith, and simplicity. Her mother, Pauline Alice, stayed at home and held tightly to traditional values. Her father, James Martin Fawcett, worked long hours as an oil field contractor, a job that demanded physical endurance and came with financial uncertainty. Money was never abundant. The family learned to live carefully, appreciating what they had rather than longing for excess. That environment shaped Farrah early, instilling in her both humility and quiet determination. She attended St. Patrick's Roman Catholic School, where strict rules governed daily life. Discipline, routine, and structure became part of her foundation. Even as a child, she learned that success required effort and restraint. Her older sister, Diane, who later changed her name to Donna, shared those early years with her. Together they navigated childhood in a small Texas community, carrying the weight of expectations that came with being raised in a conservative home. Yet even then, Farrah stood apart. From a very young age, Farrah showed signs of something different. She possessed a creative spark that didn't wait for permission or approval. By the age of 5, she was already winning local art contests. She drew and sculpted with an instinctive confidence that felt advanced for her years, as if she had discovered a secret language early in life. Art was not a hobby for her. It was an outlet, a form of expression that grounded her. As she grew older, that creative pull never weakened. Instead, it blended with another undeniable quality, her presence. Farrah didn't seek attention, but it found her anyway. At W.B. Ray High School in Corpus Christi, she became known for more than her artistic talent. The moment she entered a room, people noticed. Every year, all 4 years of high school, she was voted the most beautiful student. It was a rare achievement and one that quietly shaped her confidence. Teachers noticed more than her appearance. They saw discipline, focus, and seriousness beneath the surface. Long before fame arrived, there was a sense that she was headed somewhere beyond ordinary life. In 1965, Farrah earned a beauty scholarship to the University of Texas at Austin. At the time, her future seemed mapped out. She planned to study microbiology, envisioning a life rooted in academics and stability. She lived at Mayfair House, joined the Delta 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 sorority, and attempted to settle into the rhythm of college life. But destiny rarely follows neat plans. Her photographs began circulating, drawing attention beyond campus. When she was named one of the 10 most beautiful co-eds, a Hollywood publicist took notice. That single moment shifted the trajectory of her life. It was as if a switch flipped. At just 18 years old, Farrah faced a decision that would alter everything. In 1967, she shocked friends and family by leaving college and moving to Los Angeles. It wasn't a move backed by security or certainty. It was driven by instinct, hope, and a pull she couldn't ignore. Los Angeles did not welcome her with open arms. There were no instant successes or glamorous entrances. Casting rooms rejected her again and again. Roles were scarce. To survive, she took whatever work came her way. She appeared in commercials, modeled for print ads, and even worked as a shampoo girl. She lived carefully, spending little and waiting patiently for opportunity. In 1969, she made a choice that would divide opinion overnight. She posed nude for Esquire magazine. The reaction was explosive. Some praised her courage and confidence. Others condemned the decision, calling it reckless and career-destroying. The backlash hit hard. Farrah later admitted that she feared she might have ruined her chances before her career had truly begun. Yet the attention made her impossible to ignore. Doors that had once been sealed shut began to crack open. Around the same time, something unexpected became central to her identity: her hair. In the early 1970s, Farrah embraced a feathered style inspired by the beach waves of her Texas childhood. Casting directors initially dismissed it, labeling her too wholesome, too American, too easily categorized. The public disagreed. Magazines sold in the millions. Posters flooded stores. Her image became unavoidable. What Hollywood executives once considered a limitation transformed into her defining feature. The Farrah flip became a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of an entire decade. Yet beneath the glamour, Farrah remained deeply shy. Fame didn't erase her insecurities. Her parents still hoped she would abandon Hollywood and return home. At one point, she even stepped away briefly, traveling to Japan to model. Instead of renewal, she found loneliness and culture shock. The experience taught her how isolating fame could feel when separated from familiarity. When she returned to Los Angeles, she was resolved to move forward on her own terms. There are legends, and then there is Paul McCartney. For most of the world, Paul is the cheerful Beatle with the optimistic smile, the man behind timeless melodies like Hey Jude, Yesterday, and Let It Be. But behind that calm and iconic image lies another Paul McCartney. A man shaped by tragedy, dreams that turned into songs, secret acts of kindness he never wanted the world to know about, near-death moments that almost changed music history, and creative impulses so strange and unexpected that they feel almost magical. Paul McCartney has written countless hits, but none carries a stranger origin story than Yesterday. One morning in 1964, he woke up with a fully formed melody playing inside his head. Half asleep, he walked to the piano and played the notes exactly as he had heard them in the dream. It was so perfect that he didn't trust it. In fact, he spent months thinking he had accidentally stolen the tune from some old jazz standard or classical piece. To prevent forgetting the melody, Paul created a set of temporary nonsense lyrics. And so, the most beautiful ballad in pop history began with a ridiculous line, "Scrambled eggs, oh my baby how I love your legs." He sang those lines for months until he was certain the melody was original. Only then did the transformation begin. Scrambled eggs became Yesterday. It is almost unbelievable that a melody that arrived in a dream would become the most covered song in history. But that is the strange magic of Paul McCartney's creative mind. Paul is famous for holding his guitar and bass the opposite way from most musicians. But what many people don't know is that he didn't start as a left-handed player. As a teenager, he tried learning the guitar in the standard right-handed style like everyone else. Nothing worked. The chords felt uncomfortable, the shapes felt awkward, and every practice session ended in frustration. One day, he saw a picture of a well-known left-handed guitarist. That moment changed everything. Paul flipped the guitar, wrist-wrung it, and suddenly everything felt natural. Had he not stumbled across that simple photograph, the entire shape of his musical future might have been different. He also chose the famous Hofner violin bass partly because of how it looked. The symmetrical shape made him feel visually balanced while playing left-handed, especially on camera. It was not just sound, it was style, identity, and comfort, all fused into one. Behind Paul's cheerful personality lies a deep childhood wound. When he was just 14 years old, his mother, Mary McCartney, died of breast cancer. The loss left a profound emotional mark on him, though he rarely talked about it openly. Years later, at a time of immense stress and conflict during the late Beatles years, Paul had a dream. In that dream, his mother appeared beside him. She looked calm, peaceful, and full of comfort. And she told him something simple but powerful: "It's going to be all right." Let it be. When Paul woke up, he knew he had something special. He carried the emotion of that dream with him, and soon it became the foundation of one of the most comforting songs ever written, Let It Be. People often assume Mother Mary is a religious reference. But for Paul, those words were as personal as they could possibly be. Paul became known worldwide for supporting animal rights and promoting vegetarianism. But long before he spoke publicly about it, there was a lesser-known story. In the 1970s, a small London zoo was in financial trouble. Several animals, including endangered ones, risked losing their safe habitat. Paul heard about the situation through a friend and quietly donated money to keep the project alive. He didn't tell interviewers. He didn't ask for publicity. He didn't even want his name mentioned at the time. It was simply a personal act of compassion. These small, quiet choices reveal a side of McCartney the world rarely sees, a man who cares deeply, even when nobody is watching. January 30th, 1969. A cold London day. The Beatles walk up the stairs of the Apple Corps building, plug in their instruments, and begin playing on the rooftop. People stop in the streets. Traffic slows. Passers-by stare upward in disbelief. That legendary rooftop performance, the final live show the Beatles would ever give, was Paul McCartney's idea. The band had been arguing about how to end the documentary they were filming. They talked about performing in a grand amphitheater in North Africa. They discussed a show on a cruise ship. But everything felt too big, too forced. Paul suggested something simple. Why don't we just play live? Right here. On the roof. The others reluctantly agreed. Seconds after they started playing, the moment became history. The raw energy, the imperfect sound, the cold wind, all of it captured the spirit of the Beatles better than any planned performance ever could. Even geniuses doubt themselves. When Paul wrote Here, There and Everywhere, he was hesitant to share it with the others. Compared to John Lennon's edgier, more intense songwriting style, Paul felt his own ballad was too gentle, too emotional, maybe even too vulnerable. But when he finally played it for the band, John listened quietly, then told Paul it was one of his favorite songs he had ever written. That moment was a reminder that creativity thrives even in moments of doubt. Paul's soft melodies became some of the most enduring pieces in Beatles history. One of the most touching but little-known stories involves a young patient in a hospital. Paul was visiting, meeting children, signing autographs, the usual charity routine. But one boy seemed particularly sad and withdrawn. Instead of just offering words of encouragement, Paul asked if there was a piano nearby. There was. He walked over, sat down, and quietly played, Hey Jude. No media. No audience. No spotlight. It was a private moment of kindness, pure and simple, and it left an impact far greater than any interview could reveal. The Let It Be sessions were chaotic. Tapes were mislabeled, scattered, and sometimes forgotten entirely. Years later, Paul found old recordings stored in unexpected places, sometimes in dusty attics, sometimes in storage boxes behind furniture. Inside these boxes were alternate versions of famous songs, forgotten melodies, and raw, unfinished demos. These tapes show the messy, experimental, human side of the Beatles, a reminder that even legends create through trial, error, laughter, and frustration. In 1964, during the peak of Beatlemania, Paul and the rest of the band boarded a plane that flew into a violent storm. The aircraft shook so fiercely that the band genuinely feared for their lives. Paul later admitted he prayed silently, believing they were minutes away from disaster. If that plane had gone down, the world would have lost the Beatles in their early 20s. The entire future of music, from rock to pop to experimental, would have changed forever. It's a chilling reminder that history sometimes hangs by a thread. Paul's songwriting style is surprisingly playful. He often begins not with lyrics or ideas but with pure sound. He hums melodies, sings nonsense syllables, and lets accidental phrases form the backbone of real lyrics. Hey Jude began as Hey Jules, written to comfort John Lennon's son Julian.